7:02. I want to make sure we start in plenty of time. Thank you. So welcome. This is a Monday night training for our Through the Authors group, Through the Eyes of Authors. Tarina, hi, how are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Saw that you joined us. So good to see you. So tonight we have a really, really special treat for you. And if those of you that were not online for Greg's launch of his audiobook, you did not have a chance to meet the amazing Tess Primack. Is that how you say your last name, Tess?
That is. Primack? That's wonderful, Sandy. Thank you.
You know, Greg, I love that when you just step out and do things, you know, these wonderful people appear. And so Greg did an audiobook of his book, Tess. And Greg, I'm going to have you in a minute. I'm going to introduce both of you, and then I want you to start by telling the story of the book, Tess, because that's not your normal genre. And so tell us how Tess came to be, and then introduce Tess, the actor, the voice. Tell us first about Tess, the book. I didn't realize that was going to be a little confusing, but it is. And then Tess, the person, will let you talk about, you know, your experience of how you got involved, how you started doing audiobooks, and then you can talk about however you guys want to go back and forth. You're going to have the rest of the hour. I'm just going to make a couple of introductions and then turn it over to you. And then, Greg, if you would, save time for questions, because I know there's quite a few people on here who are considering doing audiobooks. And where did James go? James just join us?
I am here now.
Oh, there you are. That's right. I forgot that from the time I say go to let James in the room, it takes him a little time to get in the room. So I was just going to talk to you through Athena if I couldn't find it. So I know that's something. James, are you considering doing audiobooks in the future for your authors?
Yes, I was thinking about doing a couple of audiobooks. I think a couple of them will really probably do well. Fantasy romances, they kind of do well in audiobooks.
Yeah, maybe Athena's. I'm in the middle. I'm like halfway through Athena's right now. Where did Athena go?
See, Tess, you have a bunch of potential clients here.
So welcome. I want first, Amy, if you'll show your face instead of my picture. I want Amy to give you a quick update on her and her, however long you want to take, Amy, to talk about her trip to the hospital that she's going to be making any day. So, Amy, just an update on our new edition, Sky.
Okay, so I'm currently having contractions about 4 minutes apart, so she'll probably be here any day. I'm just stubborn, and I've gone twice and they've sent me home, so I'm just determined that I'm not going and coming home again. So yeah, so that's where I'm at. So if you don't see me, it's really just because I'm in the middle of pain at the moment. But I have makeup on, so I look pretty good, I think. So that's where I'm at the moment. So I would just stay tuned for, you know, hopefully a photo. Hopefully today, that would be fantastic. But you know, yeah, if not, sometime this week. So that's where I'm at.
Well, we can be pretty sure that she's coming soon because her due date is August 13th, right?
It's the 13th or the 24th. I won't go past next week. My doctor will induce me next week if I don't go. But I have a doctor's appointment at 9:30 that I'm determined if I don't go in the middle of the night, I'm going to that appointment. So I'll give you updates as I find them out. But at the moment, that's where I'm at.
But just have your mom text me because she knows I'm up. Bola and I are both night owls, so a lot of times I'll send something to be posted, and it almost feels like she posted before I send it. And I'm like, I know that's not possible because she didn't have it before that, but I'll see it shared because I have two computers here. I have my laptop and my desktop. My laptop is Apple. My desktop is Windows. So I'll put something on here to share, and I look at my desktop and it's shared. Now I'm like, yeah, how could she do that from the time I can look from here to there? But anyway, Vola is a miracle worker when it comes to posting and sharing things. So if you see your stuff being shared everywhere, you know that's, if not Amy, that's Vola doing that. When you get a birthday, that's probably from her. I have to tell my kids when they're like, I got a happy birthday that didn't even sound like you. I'm like, that's because it wasn't me, but it was Vola, and that's the message I want to send. So you're going to get it. I'm not going to go through 5,000 people and select the ones not to send it to. So anyway, I'm not going to bitch about my kids all night tonight, I promise. Anyway, so Amy, thanks for that update. A quick update on my health issues. I go Thursday afternoon to the orthopedic guy to find out if I'm going to have surgery on my shoulder or not. If I am, then you'll get, everything's all set up for people to take over and do the things like author talk, like Fern's going to do that for me for a while. Amy's got this covered. We have people speaking on Monday nights for a while. So it's all set up, the things that will be, and I'll only miss a few days of my one-on-ones with clients, and then I can do that and then hand the work over to Amy. So Amy with a brand new baby, 1-year-old. So we're going to be really, really trucking it here for a while. So I'm excited about it because challenges bring out where you want to go and what you want to do, I think. So anyway, so back to Greg and Tess. Greg is a friend and a fellow author, and he's been part of our community now for, has it been a year, Greg?
Part of Author Talk for about a year. Through the community, about 4 years. Okay.
So can I tell the story about when I first met you, Greg?
Go for it.
Because I've told it before, you may have heard me. But if you see Greg's image on, my only defense is, if you see Greg's image on Facebook, it looks like he's got very long hair and he's got this thing mounted on his head, this helmet. And it makes him look like a totally different person. So we were both going to be at the Galveston Book Festival last year, and I knew he was going to be there. He knew I was going to be there, and I said, Greg, I can't wait to meet you. I've never met you in person before. So I was all excited. So I get there, get the tables set up. I had 2 clients with me, and here comes this couple to my table, and he introduced me to his wife. And so I'm like, it was great to meet her. And the whole time I'm thinking, but who is he? I don't know who he is. But he laughed and went on. And then somebody that I knew came up to me and to the table, and I said, do you know who Greg Kelso is? And she said, yes. And I said, well, when you see him, will you introduce him to me? Because I've never met him. And about that time, this person who had been with his wife and come to my table a few minutes before that walks up to talk to the person there. I don't even remember who that was, and starts talking.
I think it was Felicia Mack.
Oh, okay. Oh, Felicia, that's right. And she said, hi, Greg. And I'm like, are you Greg Kelso? And it was him. And I honestly would have gone the whole day and never recognized you. So the next time he came back, he had his headpiece on with the long blonde hair. And so I'm like, that's the Greg I know. So that was fun. I always love meeting people in person at all these events. And many of them, most of them, I've already met on Facebook or some other social media. A couple of times we've had Facebook parties where we invite people from friends from Facebook to come out and meet in person. And we'll have to do that again after the pandemic has gone on. So Greg, thank you very much for being willing to share your story with our group. And so would you now just tell the background of Tess and how it happened and how you met Tess, and then we'll switch over to her.
Well, most of y'all know I am a fantasy fiction writer, which I have 2 novels, actually working on the 3rd and 4th at the same time for Alonica. And I wanted to do something different, and my mind was historical fiction or Western. So I actually went to 3 different groups that have over 1,000 people in them, and I did a survey, whatever you want to call it, a poll, and asked what they would want. Historical fiction, 1940, 36 to 44 era, or the Western. And believe it or not, I got so many replies, what in a female sheriff Western. So that's actually how Tess came about.
Wow.
And I do still have the historical fiction in my head, which I might write one day. I have so much going on, it's not even funny. But I put the book out, and it started doing well. And then I think December or January, I put it in for the contest for authors. I can't think of the name of the people right now, but it actually won Best Young Adult Western in Texas. And I found that out while Tess, who did the voiceover, was actually reading it. And it was like, oh man, it was just so exciting. I had to actually tell a few people, even though we were told not to, but that excitement you just have in you. That is actually how Tess came about. And I did the audiobook, and believe it or not, the first person to audition was Tess. And it was like, it was just meant to be. And I mean,
Absolutely.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say that's great. It definitely was meant to be. I think so too. I love that. And I love that you two have been marketing the book through doing things like the book launch, and now here sharing this story here. So Tess, how did you get involved in even doing audiobooks to start with?
Sure. Well, hi everyone. So good to see you and meet you, and hello. So I'm a trained stage actor. I went to college and studied theater, and I'm also a singer. And I've been doing. Sorry, my cat is like she really wants to be on Zoom.
You can have your cat just be seen.
She like really loves being on Zoom. But so I've been doing. I do a lot of stage work. I've worked on Broadway and off Broadway and around the country in regional theaters. And I also do a lot of voiceover stuff. And I grew up listening to audiobooks and doing voiceover when I was a little bit older. And I've always loved audiobooks because I grew up on them. That was my first taste of storytelling, was listening to some of my favorite books being read. I had really had trouble going to sleep when I was young. And so I would go to sleep always listening to audiobooks. And so it was a huge, huge part of my upbringing. And I think a big part of who I am as an actress. And so I just started doing voiceovers recently, and ran into Tesla, Woman of the West, and I was like, well, I think I have to audition for that. How many times do I get to say my own name? That's just so crazy. So it happened very serendipitously and wonderfully, and I'm so happy to be here.
Well, we're happy to have you. And thank you for doing this, for being here tonight and sharing your story. You said that at the time of the launch, you mentioned that some of your friends or other actors had been talking about doing audiobooks. So, so does that mean there's other people like you who would be interested in doing an audiobook? And would you be interested in doing other audiobooks?
Yeah, I mean, I had such a blast working on Greg's book, and I have many friends of mine who are fabulous audiobook narrators. They're so gifted, and so I've been learning from them and getting learning from their expertise. And many of my friends do a lot of voiceover work and a lot of audiobook work. Just because it's you can't just do, as an actor, it makes much more sense to do a wide range of things rather than just to do one thing. And I also so enjoy working on audiobooks. They're so much fun. It's just so playful and joyful, and especially with young adult work, just because I grew up on that. but that kind of storytelling is so appealing to me. It's so incredibly creative and it's very freeing. I would love to do that.
Haley, your book would make a great audiobook, I think. So I think sometimes the hard science fiction, I'm not sure if I have to be looking at those words sometimes to make sure I understand what the author is, so I can picture that in my mind. Maybe they would. I don't know. James, what do you think? Does a hard science fiction book make for an audiobook or not?
Not so much because of the concepts and sometimes because of the details that go into it. Some, especially real hard sci-fi books, would have a little bit of a hard time translated into audio because you have to keep rewinding and making sure you understood the concepts that were being done. If they were more story-like, then they probably would. I think my book would do well.
And Athena's book, I think, would do well, and then definitely Haley's book. So Haley's is a young adult book, so I think young adult books are,
Athena told me Mark's book would do well too.
It's very borderline.
Okay, so new adult then. Sorry, new adult.
Anyway, I said that Mark's book would do well, and his probably would because it's heavily more story than sci-fi. I would say, it's more story driven. Any real story driven book would do well.
So Mark, your book is cyberpunk. Or any of the other cyberpunk authors doing audio?
Maybe one of them is, and I don't know how it's going to turn out. It'll probably be released soon, but I'll keep an eye on it.
Okay.
Hey, Mark,
the British Dragon test said.
Jim Butcher did kind of a cyberpunk that was on audio.
Oh, really? I'll have to take a look at that and see how it came out. Thank you.
I'm reading Mark's book right now and enjoying it. Thank you, Mark. And yes, I do think that sci-fi their story, but it's pretty dense. Mark's world is pretty dense. I mean, it's foreign enough to where I hear what you're talking about, Sandy, where that might be difficult to hear. It's going to depend on the reader, and I'm sure Tess can speak to this. The reader is going to make or break something like Mark's book. Because it can be, if it is read right, then you're going to be following just fine. But it is going to have to be read right.
I agree, because there's a lot of division over the metaphorical language and whether it's too heavy metaphorically to really translate well to the audio. So it goes both ways, yeah.
Well, I mean, with all the auditions that I had for Tess, there's some where I was just banging my head like, oh, I cannot do this. There's no way I can accept this person. Then you get the people trying to do accents that just could not do the accents. It's like I said, I believe one of the things that I said, I wanted it Southern. Didn't have to be, but I did want to try to go with the Southern accent. And I'm getting Canadian accents. I'm getting, everything you can think of. And it's like, there is no way.
How long did all this whole process take? Well, so Greg, first of all, how long did it take you to find Tess? And then Tess, how long was the process of you recording the book? The beautiful thing about Tess and another actor doing the book is Tess has her own studio, right, Tess? Didn't you tell us that last time? That she has a studio.
I do occasionally work with audiobook houses, but many voiceover actors have their own home studios. It's just often much easier and it's also very doable for actors to have their own studios. So it varies. But yes, no, I do.
Well, anybody that does voiceovers would probably have a studio to do it in, right?
Have to, especially right now, who wants to go to the studio?
Yeah, right.
I think I took about 2 weeks listening to all the auditions. I had like 15, 16, 17 auditions.
That's not bad. 2 weeks is not a bad time to commit to it. Julie Julie, you're getting ready to launch your audiobook, right?
Well, it's supposed to be completed at the end of August, and I'm planning to launch it in September.
Okay, because I remember talking.
I just echo what Greg was saying about accents. So in my book, there's several places where a Spaniard is speaking, And no one of the 15 people I listened to or so could do the Spanish accent, English with a Spanish accent. So I ended up telling the person I picked, just try to vary your voice, like make it deeper or guttural or something, because the accent's not working.
Yes, do you have a Spanish accent?
Me? Oh man.
In your repertoire, do you have Spanish accents?
Oh man. I think you give me 20 minutes, I could probably get one. not off
No habla español?
That's great. So, so Julie, you kind of followed the same process as Greg as far as finding someone to do the voiceover, right?
Yes, Greg was my inspiration. I thought, okay, I'm going to give this a whirl just for an experience. I think I mentioned this before. I went on Audible and read their stuff, and they have right up front, we don't recommend certain categories of books. We don't recommend cookbooks. We don't recommend this book. That, well, they didn't recommend how-to or travel books. So I thought, okay, I don't care. I'm doing it anyway.
But yours is written not just as describing that. Yours is called Savoring the Camino de Santiago. So yeah, I would think yours would be an exception. I've been thinking about you for the last few days because I mean, you have a unique niche right now that you could capitalize on. I mean, there's a lot of things. I mean, if I were you, I would find some place to write about where they're going to give you a free trip to go visit it or something like that. And but they also, I love reading travel blogs and stuff. So when you and I have our next conversation, I want us to talk about all the things I see for you and your book.
Well, one thing, let me mention, this is kind of, it's not Catch-22 because it's right up there up front, but they estimate how many hours it's going to take to read based on the number of words in your book. I don't know, Tess and Greg, what your experience was. So they estimated 9 hours for my book to read it. And so that's, you pay for what they call finished hours. But the person I picked actually speaks much slower than the other 14 people I listened to. So now I'm thinking, okay, well, 9 hours might end up being 11 hours or 12 hours, who knows? So, and as part of this, I told her, look, on the chapters which are boring, just kind of read faster, read faster. But she sent back her sample and she really hadn't read faster. But she's got a beautiful, clear pronunciation, a really nice voice. So whatever it turns out, that's what it's going to be.
Okay, Julie, a quick question. Are your sentences very long or are your sentences short? If the sentence is short, you move faster. If your sentences are long, you take a slower pace over the sentence. So that should help them.
No, it really wasn't anything to do with that. So you turn in a piece of work you want them to read for their audition, and they all read the same piece. So one person read this piece and it was only like 9 minutes. And another person read it and it was 9 minutes and 10 seconds and 9 minutes and 20 seconds. So they were kind of in the same range, but this one person read it and it was 12 minutes. It was substantially slower than the others. So they're all reading the same selection.
Now, do you know the background of your person? Like, is she an actor also, like Tess?
I have no idea, Sandy, but I'm hoping when we get further down, I'll ask her if she can join me on the audiobook launch, like Greg
Yeah, I would love
Tess.
to. I think that's a great idea because that is the success or the not success of the book is the voice.
Oh, let me just say, Tess, I think you're wonderful. I heard you, I was participating in Greg's launch and I really enjoyed that program. But one thing to keep in mind is if you're hiring a professional like a Screen Actor Guild, the guild tells them what they're supposed to charge as a minimum. And from my budget, it's a lot of money, So just keep that in mind.
It depends upon upon the actor. Because ACX, which is what I use to audition, they let you set your own rates. And so it depends on, and I'm sure like often those rates are negotiable and sometimes they're not, but it really does depend upon the actor. I don't believe it is through, I don't believe ACX is through the union. So I believe the actors choose their own rates, at least through that.
Listen, I knew nothing about this until I read it, and I'm using ACX. So somewhere on there, somewhere or other, they told, they advise novelists who are coming in, or they're advising people that don't be surprised when you see this because it's what's expected. So anyway.
Somebody venture a guess on what a ballpark range of what to expect to pay for an audiobook of 100,000 words?
100,000 words is going to be 13 hours, and it depends on who you get.
Of course.
You can get somebody that would charge $50 an hour that you split 20/20 of the profit. Basically, you get 40% of the book that sells on Amazon or Audible, and then you get 40%. Then you can either split it with the person 20/20, or if they charge you a substantial amount of money per hour, then you can get all 40 and then just pay them the full amount. And
$50 an hour is about the going rate, you're saying?
No, $50 an hour, you will have to do the 20/20. So if you want to pay, I think it's about, I would guesstimate about 150 is the question mark, but I would say with my budget, $200 an hour or more is where you take full.
Okay, Kathy, I went into this totally blind, and I first, as Greg's saying, you have to say, I just want to pay by the hour. I want to split royalties. I want to have a royalty split plus pay by the hour. So you have 3 options. I had no idea. I don't think my audiobook is going to be a big seller. So I went for the split royalties option when I first started. And then I'll tell y'all, our colleague Zach was really kind to me. He told, I said, can I ask you a few questions? Because one of them was, what's the price range that I'm looking at? And he gave me advice, and he ended up really helping me on this project. But anyway, he said, do not do the royalty split. This was his advice, because you may think your book is never going to sell a single copy, but maybe it'll be featured on All Things Considered, and the next thing you know, you're selling lots and lots of copies. You can't tell what's going to happen in the future, is basically his point. So don't give up your royalty unless you have to. So in the end, I said, okay, Zach, I'm just going to do what you advise. And I bit the bullet, and I just offered, you make an offer. I offered the person I picked a rate, which I kind of pulled out of nowhere, and she accepted it. So that's the other thing that Zach said, is that right now, everybody needs work. Right now, because of COVID, everybody needs work. So you can maybe offer less than they would normally take, and they might take it. I mean, the worst they can do is say no.
Well, then do you basically self-publish the audiobook just as though it were a print or an ebook?
Well, it goes up on Audible, on Amazon.
Audible, okay.
So it's sold through Amazon.
And who does the uploading to ACX or Audible?
Well, I haven't gotten that far, but I think they do.
The voice actor.
The voice actor, you're given a timeline in terms of when the first 15 minutes of the book are due, which is sort of a sample for the author to listen to. It's a way for them to listen to how your studio sounds, how you sound. Maybe you're speaking way too fast and you just slow down. It's sort of a way for the author to gauge how the actor is doing, to make sure that it's in alignment with what the author is wanting. And then after that, you're given a date. You're like, all right, you have like 4 weeks to submit this. And maybe the voice actor will submit everything at the very last minute. Maybe they'll do it chunk by chunk. I like doing it chunk by chunk. I do have to say the one thing that I would advocate for hiring an actor, the reason to hire an actor is because actors have vocal training, and it's so physically demanding to be in the booth for many, many hours recording. you want to make sure that you hire someone who's able to sustain their voice. Like, you don't want to like have an actor speak like this and like at the end, like they are all croaky, right? So like having someone with a great sense of how to use their instrument and take care of their voice is huge, just because depending upon the length of the book, and of course their understanding of storytelling and narrative, I think that will serve you incredibly well as authors, just because an actor will know, they'll be able to sort of figure out like the storyline and be able to, I believe will be able to help you tell your story in a clearer way, but also that they will physically be able to sustain recording, because it is incredibly demanding.
And I think who was talking?
I was talking. Me.
Oh, good.
I'm curious. What do you use when you're actually reading? Do you have a script in front of you? Do you have the book in front of you? What do you have in front of you? I'm just curious.
You actually upload the book to them. I think I did. Did I do PDF for you, Tess?
You did.
Because I do PDF because a lot of people don't have Microsoft. So do the PDF because everybody has PDF.
Sure. But I mean, what do you actually have? Like paper in front of you, or do you have an iPad, or what do you have?
Well, so what I usually use, I either use my computer or my iPad. The reason the iPad is good is because the computer, the hum of the monitor can get picked up by the mic. So an iPad is very, very quiet. So often I would have my computer outside of my booth recording me separately, and I would be using my iPad because the iPad doesn't make any noise from the fan if the computer gets hot. You could use paper, but I think the iPad's preferable just because there's no noise when you swipe.
Yeah.
Tess, let me ask you something. Do you read the book first fully so that you can get an idea what the story is like, or do you just go from, I guess, chapter to chapter as you go along?
Yeah, I think part of an actor's job is to kind of be a detective about what story you're telling. So, I mean, for me, like, I like to read, but I like to read the whole thing before, so I have a sense of the arc. And maybe I learned something about a character later that I don't know. Maybe that character has a secret that I, as the audience member, don't know about, but I, as the actor, could really use when portraying the voice of that character. So I like reading the whole thing beforehand, just because it can be so telling who the character, you might not know something about them until way later. And so, of course, as an actor, you'd want to know beforehand so that you can imbue it with as much specificity as possible. I mean, you could do it off the cuff for sure, but I think reading it before is always a better option.
Okay, I have to ask, what was your favorite scene about Tess? Tess?
Oh man, my favorite scene? I mean, I liked the flashbacks when she was little. That was really fun. And then, of course, I love the scene with Thunder, the horse.
Okay.
So Julie, and anyone that's going to ACX or Audible or wherever you go to first start this whole process, Amy and I did that once for Russell. But actually, Russell got tired of listening to everybody. So we never went anywhere with it.
That sounds like Russell.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? So that's why I would have, up until you had such great success, Greg, doing it yourself, so Sue Hawley, who was a former client, wanted to do an audiobook, and she does have an audiobook. But she hired the person that came and spoke to us about audiobooks, and was not happy with all. I mean, it's good. She's got an audiobook, but there were some glitches along the way that she was not prepared for. And she, when you get somebody to do it for you, you have to pay them plus the person doing the vocal, the narrator, the voiceover person. So I had not seen great success with it. But Greg, I was so impressed with you and how you did that. And Tess, amazing. I just love the connection of the two of you. And the fact that, Tess, you would come on. And so I want to ask you, Tess, are most of the people the actors are they willing or whatever to come on and do things like you're doing with Greg, like the launch? and all of that? You think that's pretty standard, or are you just a very unique person?
Oh yeah, I mean, I think it's fun. You know, you get to meet all these interesting people that you would normally never meet, and I enjoy connecting with creatives always, which I think is pretty common among actors. And it's fun to talk about. I think the joy of being the actor is it's all about the process, and so discussing the process after, especially through the lens of something. I don't usually speak with writers that often, so speaking with like through the lens of just the writing is always very interesting. So I mean, I would imagine and hope that many of my friends would do a similar thing.
So I did see that Lydia has sent you an email. So Lydia has a beautiful book, a dragon book, and it's middle grade, right, Lydia? It's been a while since we talked about your dragon book.
It's written on about 5th, 6th grade reading level, and it's
okay.
Yeah, so that's middle grade.
Okay, so do you get other potential clients from speaking like this, or have you done this that much enough to know? Like if Lydia hires you to do her book, then that's a benefit of you coming on here. That's one of the benefits for all of us to go speak.
Sure. Well, I think, you know, with anything, acting included, it's so much about networking and who you know. You know, we only want to work with people that we enjoy working with people that we trust, that we know that we want to be in a room with and collaborate with. Everybody wants that. You know, you only want to work with people that you know that you can trust, who, you know, will play team, and that will be easy to speak with, and that you can make changes with them and they're not difficult. So of course, like this is it's always an ideal way to meet people is in real life, or, you know, in real life, I'll count Zoom as real life. Just because it's a much more authentic way to meet people. Although ACX totally works, it's always best to meet people, you know, face to face.
So let's say, Lydia, let's go through a scenario here that Lydia hires you. Lydia, you decide to do your audiobook, you decide to use Tess for your the voice. Then what do you do next? Do you still have to go to do the auditions and stuff from ACX, or can you just go directly with Tess being your
I have no clue because I've done it before. So I mean, I would I would definitely be publishing the book through ACX, you know, Audible. So Tess and I'll figure that out, because we can call Greg if we get stuck.
So there's actually a spot on there, like, per se, because she can download it. I can actually from ACX download each chapter, even after it's printed. I can still download each chapter. And I'm sorry, I know ACX says they have their 7-year commitment, but I'm probably going to end up, when I start going to cons, actually making CDs for the audiobooks and selling them to people at the conventions. And then they can have an autographed copy of the audiobook on CD form. But there's actually a spot on there where you can say, hey, I'm the author, I'm going to be having my own download. So Tess could probably email the downloads to Lydia, and then she can upload them as the chapter goes, but they would have to work out their own time and their own scenario.
We'll figure it all out.
So to go back
Greg,
to
what
your
do you mean by the 7 years?
When you upload a book, when you upload a book to Audible, there's actually a box, or there's actually a little statement that you read, which I read it all, trust me, that it is their possession on audiobooks on Audible for 7 years if you do it where they set all the prices and everything.
So technically they own the rights to it for 7 years.
Correct.
Is that right?
For example, you couldn't go out and publish it on iTunes or Kobo or something.
Correct, but they do put it on iTunes. It goes Audible, iTunes, and Amazon are the 3.
Right.
But Audible is Amazon, so that was stupid for them to even say that. But they do put it on iTunes also.
Oh, they do put it on iTunes? Oh, that's cool.
Yes.
All right, but they're publishing it. In other words, they become the publishers.
Correct.
Okay.
So let me just throw in here, it's back to the question about if Lydia would hire Tess, for example, what happens then? there is people that come in with their own narration. So they don't hire the narrator through Audible. You can do that. But whatever product you turned over to Audible has to meet their standards. That's the only thing. So if your production doesn't meet their standards, they can reject it.
Yeah, if I could pull off a British accent with conviction, then I would probably read it myself. But no, I can't do that because I'm from Texas.
Where do libraries go to get their audiobooks? Are they ordering them off of places like Amazon, or are there other production houses around?
Actually, through Amazon, through Audible, they will not make the CDs at all. So they would have to go through a different production company if they have it on CDs.
Yeah. Would they do that? Audible do that, or Amazon do that, or is that something you just can't, according to them, can't do?
They won't do it. They didn't say I can't do it. That was not in there anywhere. So my computer doesn't have any CDs or DVD drives. So I actually bought a CD recorder. I have the discs. I have the cases coming in. I have the labels coming in so I can make the labels.
Oh man,
okay.
Send me one. That sounds awesome.
I can do that. I'll send you two. That way you can autograph one and send it back.
Oh no, that sounds great.
Well, I have a question. So when it comes to fleshing out a proposal for an audiobook, I had met with one particular studio and producing company for audiobooks. And this was just an idea, and boy, did the price kind of rack up a little bit. What I was envisioning was having someone to do the voiceover, a female do the voiceover, but every chapter of my book has a scripture reading. And there was this gentleman I met with a beautiful baritone voice, and I wanted him to read the scripture at the beginning, and then having the vocal artist to read the chapters, if you will. And there was also a little jingle associated with it too. So, you know, I think my ideas were kind of raising up the price. But as far as a project such as that, Tess, is that something that you have encountered before?
I mean, I know people, and I certainly have listened to many audiobooks where there are multiple performers or multiple narrators, especially for what you're talking about, before having a scripture being read before a chapter. I've absolutely heard that. I don't know how that would work with ACX per se. I imagine that I imagine that absolutely can be done. And I also imagine that, you know, if you hired people who you trusted, who you knew had the studio capabilities to be able to do it, that one of them would be able to produce the book for you in terms of them adding in the other voice.
Well, here's a question for Tess to go with what she just asked. What if somebody put on there that they have multiple, like say they wanted it read male and female? Would you be able to get with one of your friends and be able to do it with your little studio?
I think so. I also think something that a phone patch might also be effective in terms of what people often do, especially for commercials, is if you have the team in like an AirPod in your ear, and so they don't pick up by your mic doesn't pick up what they're saying. But if each author was able to listen to each other through that, if they were working remotely, I'm sure that's totally doable. I know that often the reason people use audiobook houses is because they like to have the actors being able to listen to each other, but of course that can absolutely be done remotely. I have never done it, but I'm sure it's actually very straightforward.
Would you applicable to? I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Delia. Go ahead.
I'm trying to glean what you said to be applicable to mine. In mine, the little girl from infant to 13 years old is narrating, and is one of the characters. but then there are different characters. So, I mean, I need a voice of a young girl, changing her voice, somebody who can change their voice, plus some of the characters that would be coming in when there is dialogue.
Yeah, I mean, I think part of the fun, sorry, Greg, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, with my book, with the flashbacks, Tess started out at a certain age, and the first flashback she had, she was what, 10, 8, 10?
Yeah, she's young.
So, my brains can't think of the actual age, but I mean, I had flashbacks with different ages of Tess, and then she did perfect on them.
And I think what would serve you, Delia, is in the audition, if you post it on ACX, make sure to include a portion where the actor can show you the variety of different voices that you're wanting. I believe that Greg did that for his, which I thought was really, really wise. Just because then you can see if how flexible is this actor? Are they able to do older, younger, men, women? Because again, some actors are able to do it, and other people who maybe are just like looking through work because of COVID are not quite able to have that kind of vocal flexibility. But featuring that in the audition, I think will weed away that will tell you everything. Because there's many actors who will be able to do a multitude of different characters.
That's one thing I was going to add. I stopped looking 12 or 13 auditions. And it seems to me, and Tess and Greg needs to address this too, but I could listen to like the first 2 minutes and say, I like this voice, I don't like this voice. And then there were a lot of voices that were just fine, but they weren't special. And it ended up that the top two, one read really, really well. She emphasized the right words. She had a lot of energy. She was entertaining. It moved along briskly. But the timbre of her voice was kind of high. And I thought it'd be hard to listen to that for 9 hours.
There were some people I couldn't make it 10 seconds through their audition. I mean, when you get a monotone voice, it's over. You can tell within the first 10 seconds if they're going to be reading each word with the exact same voice. And then I had some people that were emphasizing wrong words. I had like emphasis on the word that. It's like, why are you emphasizing that? You need to emphasize the actual thing, not that. The adjectives need to be a little bit more emphasized. But yeah, you can tell within 10 seconds, but sometimes you can listen to the whole thing and then you'll find out what you want to do. But emphasis is strongly suggested in listening. And you got to realize a lot of these people will be listening in their vehicles.
I did listen to all of them. I listened to everything of all of them. And like I said, a number of them would have been fine, but they weren't my first choice. What I was trying to do was rank order them because I was thinking I'll make an offer to my top choice, but if the offer doesn't get accepted, then I'll go to number 2. And, and I can work my way down the list until I can find someone willing to do this for the price I'm willing to pay. Or I guess it didn't happen. But I guess if you make an offer to your first choice and they say no, you can go back again with a higher offer if you want to. But
yeah, I think So you asked a question. Oh, Lydia asked a question. No, that was not Lydia. Where did I see? I saw a question.
The question from Julie?
Yes.
When I say making my own copies, I mean actually making my own CDs to sell at conventions, not something that would be sold. Because there are some people that still believe in the CD players, not just Audible. So it would be something that I could sell at the conventions like at SciPaCon, NerdCon, Comicpalooza, any of those to help boost my sales. And then I would make my own price.
And Greg, one of the things I've seen from people who have CDs. I actually won this as a gift at an event I went to, and this was several years ago. So it was before. I mean, for me in our house, CDs are non-existent. We don't have CDs. We don't have DVD players. Everything we do is streaming. So, but what you can do is make your own case with the cover of Tess, and on the inside, instead of putting an actual CD, you put you make a sales page, put it in there with the link, the address of the link to go and listen to so you could put the Amazon link or the Audible link to go and listen to the book. And that way, if somebody buys that, I don't know how you'd work showing Amazon that it got purchased, though. It just occurred to me that Amazon has to see that it's
You
purchased.
would actually have to purchase it and then get a code to send to somebody.
That's true. And Julie's question too was, can you order author copies like the books? The books you can order author copies at a reduced price. Is that true of the audiobooks?
With the audiobook, to give you a guesstimate, you're going to get, believe it or not, 50 promo codes. They're automatically going to send you 50 promo codes. 25 for UK, 25 for US. So after you sell 100 books, you're going to be able to get 10 more. So it all will depend on sales, but they're going to actually start you out with 50.
Well, Greg, you could also burn these things to a flash drive.
I thought about that too.
And it will cut, and a lot more people can use flash drives than use CDs nowadays.
Yeah, that's very true. Because a few years ago, actually, I purchased a flash drive that had a book on it. It was a book. One of the speakers had them for sale, and I thought that was a great idea. So, James, thanks for thinking of that. Jeremy,
I had thought about doing that, and also actually put in the print copy on flash drives. After having gone to several shows and carrying a couple of 100 pounds of books around with me, I thought about, putting the books on flash drive, and people could just put them and read them off their computers.
And Windows 10 doesn't have a CD or DVD thing. You have to go outside and upload because it doesn't have an automatic default. So with the more newer software on there, you're just not finding it as convenient to still put a CD or DVD in. Just to give you a heads up on that.
Okay, thank you, Red, for that. Jeremy?
Yeah, I was looking in the comments. To Lydia's point about authors who record their own books, and most of them are not, I'm totally on board that most of them are not, except for books like Red stuff.
Yeah.
If they're self-help or how-to stuff, it is almost imperative that it comes from the author, or else it's actually a disconnect that I feel. When it's an actor and the person is reading, especially when it's very personal stuff, like if it is self-development or personal development or even professional development, marketing, if it is their product and their thing and somebody else is reading it, there's a complete disconnect. But when the author is reading it, it's totally magical for some reason. However, when an author is reading their fiction, for some reason, that's complete disconnect, and you totally want somebody like Tess to do it.
Well, I recorded my first 2 books and sold them basically as a CD. And that was quite a long time ago, maybe 10 years ago.
Well, I think, I think it's almost like, do you hire a professional to do your cover? Okay. So, or do you hire a professional, or do you train long enough to format your own book correctly? I mean, if you know how to do that, then great. If you don't, then you need to hire a professional. And so, I love The Nightmare King. That's a very personal story to me. And so, it's kind of like I waited 7 years for the Magic Cat illustrator to find the right illustrator. So, if Tess is the right person, then now's the time. If she's not, then, then maybe something else. But,
I think that's
it's
a great
investment if you want, because you've got a lot of competition on Audible. I mean, I subscribe to Audible, and I'm like Tess. I fall asleep to audiobooks all the time, especially Sherlock Holmes. And so, you can tell when it's not a real professional job.
Mm-hmm.
So don't finger paint on the Mona Lisa.
The funny thing is that the first Audible or audio book I ever listened to, which has been years ago now, but I had read the book and then I got I really like doing both. You listening and seeing it at sometimes at the same time. I'm doing that with one of Brene Brown's books now, so I can hear her, and she does her own books. I can hear her speaking as I'm looking at the book, which helps me a lot. But it helps me to pay attention for one thing. But and this was a fiction book, the first one I heard, and when I listened to it, I'm like, there were some things that I never saw when I was reading it, that hearing that voice and hearing, and it just transformed the way I saw books from then on. I'm like, I want to be able to do both. So Greg's book, and Greg was very generous in giving out some for reviews. He gave out some codes to go get a free copy of his Audible audiobook, and that was amazing, Greg. So so this looks like a great topic. So obviously everybody's interested in knowing all the different ins and outs of an Audible book or an audio book. So I won't ask you to be back on Friday, Tess, but Greg, if you're available on Friday, we can continue this discussion on the mastermind.
Oh, definitely.
So,
and one thing.
And Julie, you're at two different levels. Greg's finished product, already launched it. Julie's in the middle of hers. And so Julie, you'll be there Friday, you normally are anyway. So if you're there, then I'd love to have you in the discussion. Anybody else between now and Friday, just, and Amy, if you do the email on Friday, if not, I'll do it. But we'll put that in what we always tell you what we're going to be talking about. So we'll do that again on Friday because it is 8:00 and we've already had a few people that had to go. So Tess, while you're here though, would you put your email in earlier for Lydia?
I did. I'll put it in there again.
Okay, so if you want to talk are you open to people contacting you through email, Tess?
Of course, that'll be wonderful.
So send her an email if you have a question, if you're interested in hiring her, if you want to know her rates, anything like that. So I would love to get Tess more clients. I think she's wonderful. I wish I had a book, so read my book. And I just am totally impressed with somebody that has the qualifications that she has and has the voice she has. And she showed us a few accents the last time when we were doing the launch. So I believe she could have pulled off that Spanish accent for Julie. So we'll see. Do you have any final thing, Jeremy? Greg, any final thing you want to say?
Well, one of the final things, because I saw that Tess was advertising it on Facebook, is she does a thing from Broadway from Home. I think that's for kids. And I'd like her to tell a little bit about that before she heads out.
Oh, Greg.
I think it's a great thing.
I love that.
Greg, that's so sweet of you. Thank you. I would love to. Yeah, no, if anybody has any kids, since I'm a member of the Broadway community, I started a company called Broadway from Home, where we bring Broadway actors and film and television actors to teach kids all over the world. So we have kids from like Qatar and America, anywhere. They're from all over the place. We teach improv, dance, scene study. We do like live shows where they're like right now we're working on The Little Mermaid and they're like doing The Little Mermaid live, but we like pre-record all the music. Anyway, it's awesome. If you have children and they love theater or they're interested, we also teach like voiceover classes and like this cool animation class. Anyway, I'll put it in the chat. It's really fun.
That's awesome. I did not know that, Tess. You speak up. But Greg, thank you very much for doing that for Tess.
And the one thing that I would like to say, if y'all have not joined yet, I do run I'm part of the runners, for Authorology. And I guess I can post that here real quick, but it's on Facebook. It's called Authorology. Yeah. And basically it's for everybody who even writes I guess blogs. I mean, it's all sorts of writing.
They are
authors.
writers.
And it's a great community. It just started building up. We have our first anthology going on right now. It went from, I think, 80 members to 250 members in 1 week. since
I
we
just published my first blog there today. Thank you very much, Greg.
No problem. But join the community. It's great people. We talk about where events are going to happen and everything.
Very good. And yes, I am a member of that group. Thank you, Greg. And Joanna is Greg's co-host or co-author or co-founder, I guess, co-founder. And then Fern is one of the first sponsors. And I did tell Fern to let you guys know that I would like for us to be another sponsor. So let me know what you need, if it's services you need, if it's money you need, as long as it's not like thousands of dollars. I would love to help you out with some of the events we're going to be doing. So let me know, because I definitely want Perceptive PR on there somewhere. And if you want to be a sponsor, I don't know what are you looking for as far as sponsors, Greg?
Well, we were discussing that. We're thinking about getting editors and publishers. We were actually talking about Texas Sisters today. But we're going to probably wait until to see y'all's first anthology, see how that goes, and then maybe talk to y'all after that. But editors, publishers, anything you can think of, we're looking for it right now. We just started out as a nonprofit organization. We're going to have events. We're going to have a gala after our first anthology, probably February, maybe March, don't know when, but it's building up. It's a great community. And there are authors all over the world.
One of the first things that we are going to do, I know for you, is a press release and get that sent out about the founding of it, because we want to have it out to all a national or even international group. So thank you, Greg, for doing that. If anybody else has anything you're working on, any projects that you need our help, please let us know. That's what we are. We are a group. We can be a support group if you need support. We can be an accountability group if you want accountability. Or we can be here to hear your ideas and help promote them. We're definitely your launch team. So in that, I wanted to say, Athena's book will be launched on August 22nd. It's a relaunch, a reboot is what Charles and Rox call it, a reboot. So we will be launching it. It'll be free for how many days, James? The weekend?
Yeah, the weekend.
Okay, so you can get it free. Athena, tell us about the title of the book. Tell us about the book, just a brief thing about the book.
Tell us what time.
It's All I Ever Wanted. It's about two feuding families and how karma kind of brings the youngest members of the two families to meet, which is not a good thing. It's throwing oil into the fire. So it's a
very good. I am
modern day Romeo and Juliet with a few different twists.
I am enjoying reading it, and it's not taken nearly the effort that it took for John and Mark's book, I have to tell you. So I can just sit back and relax when I read this book. I'm like, my book. So, but thank you, Athena. I look forward to that. That will be what time, James?
8 o'clock Eastern?
8 o'clock Eastern, Lydia, so 7 o'clock our time. So anybody wants to join us, we will be looking for other romance authors to be on and talk about their book. We have not made any invitations for that. So if you know somebody you want to recommend, Athena and James, if you guys have somebody you want to put in there, Athena, especially if you know other romance writers, we'd love to have one in there. So remember that the thing we require, and this is not a request, this is a require, when we have somebody as a guest on your launch, they share it. So that's the one thing we ask of them, is that they share it so that they help us get the publicity. Athena, were you going to say something?
I was just going to say, it's interesting that we say, ask somebody of your genre when, love stories appear in every book. I see it like this. Romance is a romance with a story, where stories have romance in. So it's just a little bit different, but all stories have romances.
You're absolutely right.
When you think about it.
And that's why we're doing a press release on what you had to say about romance and how that is the underlying, the foundation for most books. Even the fantasy books have sometimes. I don't think Haley's had romance in it, but the potential is there. So, okay, so thank you all for being here. Kathy, let me know if you want to have a conversation about this, Kathy Horizon. So Tess, I love you. It's so nice to meet you and get to know you. And I look forward to you doing other books with people we know so we can help you with that promotion.
Yes, this community rocks. It's wonderful to be here. Thank you so much for having me, Sandy. And so good to see you, Greg.
Thank you. Thank you. So we'll see you guys on Friday.
Okay.